Hey everyone, today on the Hobby Grotto I'm going to show you a super fast way to paint Nurglings. I'm starting with a base coat of Cadian Flesh Tone over the whole model, and I've got this nice and watered down so it goes on fast and easy, while also being thin so it doesn't clog up any detail. Of course you could spray or airbrush this colour onto the Mini, but I like the base level shading and tone that comes from going over a black undercoat like this. And this colour is going to give a nice pink undertone to all the skin, which when combined with the green we're going to be putting on later, creates a nice gross tone which is perfect for Nurgle, and also makes the green a bit more interesting. I'm making sure to do 2 coats here to get the whole model nicely based. I'm almost purely using dry brushing, washing and glazing on this Mini because when you're painting Nurglings, you're painting lots of small bodies, so we want to cut as many corners as possible to achieve something that looks good on the tabletop while still maintaining a good level of detail for close-up viewing, and all these speed painting techniques work perfectly for Nurgle stuff, so that's just an added bonus. Next up, I'm dry brushing the model with a 50-50 mix of Cadian Flesh Tone and Iron Rack Skin to continue the work of the flesh tone while also building some depth. And Iron Rack is a perfect colour for mixing like this because it has a slight green tinge to it, which is going to be taking us in the right direction while also being pale enough to suitably lighten the Cadian Flesh Tone. A final light dry brush of Iron Rack Skin here. You can see as we build up this last highlight that we're already getting a green, disgusting tinge coming out of the skin due to the Iron Rack, because as I mentioned earlier, it's an off-white with some green overtones in there. I'm mainly concentrating this dry brush on the areas where light would be hitting the most, but like with all aspects of this paint job, you don't have to worry about being too neat. This is hilarious, disgusting Nurgle we're painting here. It just all adds to the flavour. It's looking a bit washed out after all that dry brushing, so we're hitting the whole model with some Nuln Oil to establish our deep shading. Just paint it over the whole model, and this stage is particularly useful for getting into all the deep cracks and crevices. There are always some areas you miss on the undercoat and base coat, so this just colours all those areas black and creates shadows in there to hide any mistakes. Don't forget as well, if you're enjoying the video, hit up those like and subscribe buttons. That always helps the Hobby Grotto a great deal. Now this stage is optional, but I like to come by once the wash is completely dry with another light dry brush of Iron Rack Skin, because I think it just helps the details stand out a bit more for very minimal effort. And this is also going to help with the glazes. Like before, I'm concentrating this mainly on where I think the light would be hitting the most. All the work we've done so far has been to set up the base for these glazes to go over, starting with Plaguebearer Flesh contrast paint, which I've mixed with some medium to make it a bit more transparent, about 50-50, and I'm applying this to all the skin while leaving everything else like the horns, wounds, organs, etc. in the original base tone, because we're going to be dealing with that stuff later. And you can decide how green or pale you want this mix to be by adding more or less medium, or even using a different colour entirely. Anything goes with Nurglings. I'm just going for a traditional look here. It may seem a bit slow, being careful like this to not hit any of the non-green areas, but by doing this, we won't have to repaint any of these areas later with the base, so it's actually saving time. Even when speed painting, it pays to take your time and be a bit more careful on certain areas. You always have to work smart. I've used contrast paints for glazing in a number of my videos, and they're honestly perfect for this. The only thing with contrast paints is that they all have different levels of pigment saturation, so particularly for glazing, it's always good to mix them with some medium to get just the right level of transparency you're after. We want all the glazes to be light enough that they add some colour, but we still have the undertones from all the previous layers there coming through. I'm adding Magos Purple to all the wounds now, and when applying this, I like to kind of splash out around the wounds too, so it creates some discoloration around the edges. I'm actually using this straight because it's quite a pale colour, and it's only being applied to small areas. If you don't have any of these contrast paints, you can make similar glazes by mixing regular paint with medium, in this case pink or purple would work, or just by using an ink or a wash. You can also use different colours here like blues or browns or anything really. I just like the look of the pinky purple in contrast to the green skin. I really enjoy this style of painting with washes and glazes. I'm often inspired by my friend Miguel from Rush the Wash, who regularly paints like this. So if you enjoy this kind of style, definitely check out his YouTube channel. It's full of all kinds of awesome. Now this is another optional touch, but I like to add some red parts into the wounds and onto the tongues just to give a bit more visual interest to the parts, and some Flesh Tearers Red is perfect for this. You may want to add some medium to this as it's a very bold colour, or alternatively keep it pure to punch up that saturation. I'm going to be using a bit of traditional brush work here for the final few details because the faces are focal points on these little guys. I've actually repainted some of these eyes black before applying this yellow to make them pop a bit more, but if you're in a hurry, you can just go straight to the yellow here. Avalon Sunset is the perfect tone for this, but you might want to come back after with a bit of Iriel Yellow and add some highlights to the larger eyes. And finally, I like to pick out any teeth that are a bit too dark with some Ushabti bone. From this point you can add some more highlights to the skin with Iron Rack if you're feeling generous, or just leave them in a nice table ready state like this. They're only Nurglings after all. So there we go. I always find it super fun painting Nurgle stuff. You can be a bit messy and also try cool and interesting techniques. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on the Hobby Grotto.